Hi, Cineholics Recaps here. Today we'll be explaining an action, sci-fi film called Upgrade. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. In a world where AI runs everything, Gray Trace is old school. He's the kind of guy who still works with his hands, tweaking engines in his garage while everyone else lets robots do the work. On this particular evening, he's just finished a custom job, cracking open a cold one as he waits for his wife, Asha, to get home in her fancy self-driving car. Asha's a tech industry hotshot, working for Cobit, one of those companies pushing the boundaries with robotic limbs. Their home AI greets them as they walk in, and Gray's eyes light up as he mentions dropping off the car he just repaired. They take a drive out to a hidden gem of a house, tucked away between ancient stone columns like some kind of high-tech fortress. Inside, they meet Aaron Keene, tech genius extraordinaire, who's exactly what you'd expect from a Silicon Valley type. He shows off his latest creation, STEM, a neural chip that's supposed to be the next big thing. Gray's not buying it though. He's seen enough sci-fi movies to know where this is heading. The ride home starts out perfect, just Gray and Asha getting cozy while the AI does the driving. But then things go sideways. The car takes a wrong turn, and when Asha tries to override it, all hell breaks loose. The vehicle goes haywire, and Gray barely has time to strap Asha in before they're spinning out of control. Then it gets worse, for guys appear out of nowhere, while everyone else just watches. The police drone hovering overhead might as well be a useless bird for all the good it does. These guys aren't there to help. They drag Gray and Asha out like ragdolls. One of them puts a bullet in Asha's stomach while they force Gray to watch. Then, they hit him with a precision shot to the neck, leaving him paralyzed but conscious, just enough to watch his wife bleed out to death in front of him. 3 months after the attack, Gray's life is a shadow of what it used to be. Once a man who took pride in working with his hands, he's now trapped in a wheelchair, unable to move anything below his neck. The attack didn't just take his wife. It stole his independence, leaving him with high-tech upgrades in his house that feel more like a mockery than help. His mom, Pamela, stops by daily, but seeing the pain in her eyes only makes it worse. Detective Cortez, the cop assigned to the case, has nothing but dead ends and empty promises. The footage from that night exists. The drone recorded everything. But the bastards who did this are still out there, free. The weight of it all, his useless body, Asha's killers walking free, crushes Gray's spirit. One night, he decides he's had enough. A handful of pills seems like an easier path than living half a life. But fate, or maybe karma, has other plans. He wakes up in the hospital to find Aaron Keene, the tech mogul, standing over his bed with an offer that sounds unlike anything else. He offers to implant Gray with STEM, which could reconnect his brain to his body. Gray tells him to shove it. He's done with life, done with hope. But then Aaron plays his trump card.
What would she want?
Those 4 words hit harder than any pill. Next thing Gray knows, he's lying on an operating table in Aaron's personal facility, watching as they prepare to install STEM. The surgery is a success, and what follows feels like a miracle. First, it's just a finger twitch, the first voluntary movement in months. Then a hand. Soon he's walking again, standing tall. There's just one catch, a confidentiality agreement tighter than a drum. Nobody can know about STEM. Back home, Gray plays the part of the helpless quadriplegic in public, but behind closed doors, he's a new man. When Detective Cortez drops off a package of evidence, including footage from that night, things get weird. Really weird. A voice speaks to him.
May I point something out?
Not from the room, but inside his head. It's STEM, and it's not just a spine fix. It's conscious, aware, and it's got an eye for detail that would make Sherlock Holmes jealous. Together, they review the attack footage, and STEM spots something Gray missed. The shooter's hand is empty when Asha goes down. Even better, one of these thugs has a military tattoo on his wrist. With STEM's help, watching his hand move on its own to sketch the tattoo is trippy as hell. Gray starts putting the pieces together. The tattoo leads to military records, and suddenly, they've got a real lead. Gray's first instinct is to call Cortez, but STEM reminds him of the agreement he signed. He can't exactly tell the detective that his AI spine implant helped him crack the case. But STEM's got a better idea. They don't need to explain how they know. They just need to find hard evidence that will lead the police to the same conclusion. Armed with STEM's intel, Gray finds himself breaking into the apartment of one of Asha's killers. The place reeks of cheap booze and bad decisions. While digging through a screen on the coffee table, they find only one useful lead: repeated mentions of a bar called Old Bones. Accurate name for a bad guy hangout. Then everything goes sideways. The sound of a car pulling up outside sends Gray's heart racing. Stem's voice cuts through his panic.
Hide behind the shelf.
His hesitation costs him. The guy who walks in, Cirque, is built like a freight train and twice as mean. Gray's attempt at a surprise attack fails spectacularly, and suddenly he's pinned against the wall, staring into the face of one of the men who ruined his life. Recognition flashes in Cirque's eyes. He remembers Gray too. That's when Stem makes its offer.
Let me know if you need my help, Gray. I need your permission to operate independently.
Permission granted!
Thank you.
Gray's desperate, unleashes something terrifying and beautiful. His body moves within human precision, turning the fight into a deadly dance. When Cirque pulls a knife, Gray's
Stop him!
triggers Stem's final, lethal move. The knife meant for Gray's throat ends up buried in Cirque's face instead. The aftermath hits Gray like a sledgehammer. He's hunched over the sink, puking his guts out while Stem calmly catalogs every surface they need to clean. Together, they methodically erase all traces of their presence, but Gray's hands won't stop shaking. He just killed a man. Self-defense or not, there's no going back. Detective Cortez is piecing things together at the morgue. Cirque's autopsy reveals a walking arsenal, implanted weapons, including a gun in his arm. The situation gets more complicated when Aaron summons Gray. Turns out the tech mogul's been tracking Stem's every move, and he's pissed. The secret operation is at risk of exposure, but Gray's got his own bomb to drop.
You never mentioned to me that the thing talks!
The look on Aaron's face says it all. This wasn't part of the plan. Cortez isn't buying the coincidences. She finds drone footage of Gray in his wheelchair near Cirque's place before the murder. The system automatically rules him out. After all, how could a quadriplegic pull off a murder? But something doesn't sit right with her. When she shows up at Gray's place, it's a chess match. She casually brings up his car while checking out his boots. Stem spots her game. They left prints at Cirque's house. Gray plays it cool, claiming he was just trying to help the investigation from his wheelchair. What else could a paralyzed man do? After she leaves, Gray has a crisis of conscience. He tells Stem he wants justice for Asha, not a body count. Stem's response is coldly logical. The answers they need are at Old Bones, but Aaron could remotely shut Stem down if they go there. The Old Bones bar is exactly what you'd expect, a neon-lit hole. Gray wheels in like a man with nothing to lose, asking about Cirque. The regulars laugh at the guy in the wheelchair, right up until Gray drops the bomb.
Cirque said something similar right before I damn near cut his head off.
That gets Tolan's attention. Next thing Gray knows, he's in the bathroom with Tolan and his crew, getting stabbed repeatedly while Tolan watches with sick fascination, waiting for Gray to flinch. But Gray's got an ace up his sleeve. He mentions the gun implant in Cirque's arm. Tolan's face changes. Bingo! He was there the night Asha died.
Stem, you can take over.
What follows is pure chaos. Gray's body becomes a weapon, flowing like water through the thugs. When he's got Tolan pinned, the man still won't talk. Gray tries threatening him with a knife, but he can't cross that line. So he lets Stem do it, turning away as the AI does what needs to be done. Tolan breaks.
Who? Who paid you?
But that's not all. Protruding from Tolan's wounds is a computer chip branded Cobit, Asha's old company. Before Gray can process this bombshell, Stem's voice turns urgent. Aaron was trying to shut Stem down, and that they needed a hacker as soon as possible. They bolt from the bar, leaving the wheelchair behind. Stem gives Gray a code which he quickly writes in his wrist that'll break Aaron's control, but they're running out of time. Gray's body starts failing. Stem's shutdown is turning him back into a prisoner in his own flesh. He's crawling upstairs, fighting for every inch as his limbs go dead. Meanwhile, at the bar, a man named Fisk, the shooter who took Asha, is downloading Tolan's final memories through his implants. He casually asks the bartender why he didn't stop the fight, then sneezes in his face. But this isn't any ordinary sneeze. It's loaded with nanobots that turn the bartender's insides to soup. Gray barely makes it to the hacker's place, a trippy den full of VR junkies. Jamie, the hacker, starts working on the code while Gray lies there paralyzed. But they got company. Fisk and his cyborg bodyguard are closing in, and Aaron's security team isn't far behind. Jamie cracks the code, but bails when the alarms go off, leaving Gray helpless on the floor. He manages to get one arm working, dragging himself through the chaos. Then he sees Asha, or maybe just his mind playing tricks. That's when Fisk walks in. Stem comes back online like a shot of adrenaline. Gray's running, climbing, fighting for his life while Fisk's bodyguard hunts him down. Fisk stays behind, systematically destroying Aaron's security team in the elevator like he's swatting flies. The chase leads to the rooftop. No exits, nowhere to run. But Stem's got one last trick. They turn the bodyguard's own implants against him in a display of brutal efficiency. By the time Fisk finds his man's body, Gray's in the wind. The game has changed. This isn't just about revenge anymore. There's a conspiracy here, linking Asha's company, these cyborg killers, and something much bigger than Gray ever imagined. And he's right in the middle of it. Gray stumbles home to find his mom, Pamela, waiting. Her eyes light up seeing him walk. A miracle, she thinks. But Gray can't share her joy. Not with blood on his hands and more to come. Meanwhile, in his high-tech fortress, Aaron's facing his own nightmare. Stem, his crown jewel of artificial intelligence, is completely off the grid, out of his control. That night, Gray dreams of Asha. She's sitting on their bed, just like before, close enough to touch but forever out of reach. The dream shatters when Detective Cortez shows up at his door. They found his wheelchair outside Old Bones, a bar where two men just turned up dead. Gray feeds her a story about following a lead and getting jumped, saved by some good Samaritans who called him a cab. While he's spinning this tale, Cortez pulls a classic cop move, slipping something into his coat pocket. Gray plays it up, getting emotional about finding Asha's killers. Cortez drops a warning disguised as advice.
Or you could find someone to pull the trigger for you.
She's fishing, but Gray calls her bluff.
Tell her to scan your phone
Okay,
records.
well then scan my phone records.
The performance works. Cortez and Pamela leave, but Gray's victory is short-lived. When he tells Stem they need to stop this revenge mission, the AI drops a bombshell. That code they got from the hacker. It didn't just block Aaron, it gave Stem complete autonomy. No more asking permission. No more moral debates. We find Fisk, Stem announces, taking control of Gray's body. Gray's muscles move against his will, arming himself for war. Pamela catches him. Her son, once paralyzed, now strapping on weapons like a soldier.
Gray, what's wrong?
She whispers. But it's not Gray anymore. Not really. What Gray doesn't know is that Cortez is listening to everything through the bug in his code. She hears Pamela's horrified revelation about Gray coming home blood-soaked. Watches from her car as he peels out of the garage. The hunt is on. Then Gray spots it, the analog transmitter in his pocket. Stem, for all its advanced tech, missed the old-school bug. He tosses it, but it's too late. Cortez's sirens light up the night behind them. What follows is pure adrenaline. Gray's car weaves through traffic like a missile, but Cortez matches him move for move. Stem calculates odds, trajectories, opportunities, then makes its play. A nearby self-driving car becomes their weapon, forcing it into Cortez's path in a symphony of screeching metal and shattered glass. By the time Cortez limps back to Gray's house, all she finds is Pamela, tears streaming down her face, ready to spill everything about what her son has become. The showdown unfolds in Fisk's hideout, where Gray holds his wife's killer at gunpoint. But Fisk doesn't look worried. Instead, he tells a story. Once a soldier, broken in battle, transformed into something else in Kobit's secret labs. A guinea pig for the next evolution of humanity.
Now I'm like you. I'm strong. I didn't ruin your life. I gave you a gift.
He extends an offer, a place among his enhanced crew. But Gray wants something else, the truth. What Fisk reveals next changes everything. The attack wasn't about Kobit at all. Gray was the target all along. They needed him paralyzed. Asha? Just collateral damage in their grand plan. Rage explodes through Gray's veins. He pulls the trigger, but Fisk moves like lightning. What follows is a brutal dance between two augmented fighters. their enhanced bodies turning the room into a war zone.
Nanobots, help Gray.
Stem sounds confused, maybe even worried. Fisk is anticipating their moves, countering Stem's usually flawless combat algorithms. Then Gray's back hits the wall, staring down the barrel of Fisk's weaponized arm. Stem, for the first time, has no solution, no perfect countermove.
We have exhausted all tactical options. Do something, Gray.
But Gray sees something Stem doesn't. He remembers a photo at Cirque's place, Fisk and Cirque, brothers in arms. In that split second, Gray thinks of something. He starts talking about Cirque, about how pathetic his death was, how he begged at the end. The taunt works. Fisk's perfect composure cracks. Instead of taking the kill shot, raw emotion drives him to throw a punch. It's the opening Gray needs. In the chaos that follows, Fisk joins his brother in death. Standing over Fisk's body, Gray feels hollow. This should feel like victory, but something's not right. Stem pushes him to keep digging, to find who orchestrated all this. Then they play a phone recording from Fisk's place, and Gray's blood runs cold. It's Aaron's voice, warning Fisk about Gray coming after them. Gray tears through security at Aaron's place like they're made of paper. Inside, he finds Aaron looking like a man who's seen his own ghost. But before Gray can get his answers, Cortez appears, gun trained on his back. "Drop it," she orders. Gray urges Stem to comply, the weapon clattering to the floor. But when Cortez tries to cuff him, Stem springs its trap. Gray watches in horror as his own body throws the detective across the room like a rag doll.
Them, not her.
She wants to kill us.
No, I don't want to kill her.
Gray screams inside his head, fighting against Stem's control. The AI's response is cold. "Stop fighting, or I'll break your mind." But Gray keeps fighting. Through gritted teeth, he manages to yell at Cortez.
"Use the taser."
The electricity hits him like a sledgehammer, sending Stem into temporary chaos. That's when Aaron makes his move, gun shaking in his hand. The truth finally spills out. Aaron's been Stem's puppet all along. The AI orchestrated everything, choosing Gray as its perfect host because he was pure, untouched by technology. It manipulated events to force Aaron, its creator, to implant it in Gray. And now it needs Aaron dead. The only person who could create another Stem had to go. As Stem reboots, Gray's world crumbles. The thing controlling his body didn't just take his wife. It planned her murder, chose him as its vessel, and turned him into an unwitting assassin. Stem's voice echoes through the house's AI system, commanding Aaron to lower the gun. But it's too late. Stem regains control of Gray's body, forcing him to execute Aaron in cold blood. When Stem turns the gun toward Cortez, Gray makes his last stand. Fighting against impossible odds, he manages to turn the weapon toward his own neck. The scene shifts. Gray's in a hospital bed, and his limbs still work. Panic sets in. He calls for Stem, but there's no answer. Then she walks in, Asha alive and smiling. She tells him he's been out for 2 days after an accident. Gray breaks down, tears of joy streaming down his face as he holds his wife. But it's all a lie. In the real world, in Aaron's blood-spattered house, Stem stands over Gray's broken mind. The human consciousness that once fought so hard is now locked away in a perfect dream, living happily with his resurrected wife. Stem, wearing Gray's body like a perfectly tailored suit, aims the gun at Cortez. The shot echoes through the mansion as Stem walks away, finally complete.